Bordering the divide between Falkreath Hold and the Reach lies Fort Sungard. It overlooks a mountain pass dividing the region, as well as the main road to Rorikstead from Whiterun. Its location atop the crag is clearly defensible, with several overlooks to the roads. However, it doesn't serve as a watch against passing armies anymore. It has since fallen into disrepair and has been taken as a hideout for a Forsworn tribe. After obliterating the Forsworn with a few fireballs, I found myself in the courtyard of the most unusual location in all of Skyrim. A location that, by all measures, does not belong. Or, at least it doesn't belong in the game of Skyrim. It is an obvious black sheep, and by the end of this video, you will understand why. The average fort in Skyrim is going to have 1 or 2 explorable interiors. Sungard has 5. The Muster, the Tower, the Shrine, the Annex, and the Oubliette. Some real fancy names, right? The interiors are fully designed and furnished, but there isn't a single enemy inside. It's eerily quiet. It doesn't feel like a Skyrim dungeon at all. For any dungeon, there are enemies scattered about to keep you from getting bored for a clean, linear experience. But it isn't clean, and it's not linear. Sungard is wildly non-linear. None of the interiors are connected to each other in any way, and there are a whopping 14 points of entry. If you enter the Muster through the front, you will find a barracks and a mess hall setup, and in the basement is the kitchen with a drain exit on the other end. If you go out the sewage exit, you will find yourself on the outside of the fort, and will need to walk all the way around in order to continue exploring. In a game design sense, this is terrible. It's a massive detour with no payoff. However, in a world-building sense, it is unusually thoughtful. When you flush a toilet, you don't want that refuse to be sent to your living room. Of course the sewage exit takes you outside of the fort. Where else would it take you? It's a minor detail that most would never notice or pay attention to, and yet it lends so much legitimacy to the construction of this fort. Somebody handcrafted it and considered believable designs. Consider the shrine. This altar has a dedicated room, with some basic storage beneath it, nothing more, nothing less. I appreciate the simplicity of the shrine. It's a very small room, but it's also a small fort. A small garrison of troops doesn't need a megachurch in order to worship their gods. But they do need something separate from their duties as soldiers. The shrine being a completely separate room does a much better job of illustrating the religiosity of the denizens of Skyrim in comparison to a lazily placed altar in the corner of a dungeon. You walk right past that and don't think twice. The shrine, meanwhile, is given the spotlight. It is the first and only thing you see upon entering. It visually holds power in its placement, and I find that incredibly charming. The Annex features the garrison's captain's quarters. I don't know this because there was a lazily written note left on the table spelling it out. I know this because of the wall decorations, the desk, the wardrobe, and the double wide bed. Environmental storytelling is much easier to pay attention to when the location isn't gamified with enemies. Like the Muster, the exit spits you outside of the courtyard and requires you to backtrack more. However, you are met by this excellent overlook of the road to Rorikstead. Again, bad game design, good world design. The Oubliette is nothing special. It is in fact an underground dungeon accessible by a trapdoor, or at least what used to be a trapdoor. There's also a secret cave entrance to leave the Oubliette, and it's very good. It is only 5 feet off the main road, but you would never notice it because of the vegetation and the way the entrance blends into the rocks. This feels like a real hidden entrance, one that someone could actually find instead of the gimmick secret entries that are halfway up mountains. This dungeon exit is also far from the fort's main entrance, requiring exhaustive backtracking to continue exploring. Awful game design, again and again and again. And yet, I feel a bit fond of it. It scratches a certain itch for me, one that Skyrim never dares to touch. Sungard tells a story. It tells me about the world, just through being, through existing. Deep down, Fort Sungard reminds me of the Quama egg mines of Morrowind. Vardenfell is a harsh place. With red mountains spewing out ash regularly, much of the island is unsuitable for agriculture. In light of this, a staple of the Dunmer diet is eggs produced by the insect creatures known as Quama. There are many egg mines across the island, serving as the backbone to Morrowind's economy. A few of the mines are relevant for quests. They are relevant for quest plural, such as defeating poachers that steal eggs. However, most mines are not relevant. There are no dangerous enemies aside from the odd Quama warrior defending its home, and there is never loot to find, and I truly mean never. Why would there be loot in an egg mine? That would be like walking into a cornfield and expecting to find a Porsche. From a game design perspective, the egg mines are entirely pointless to the player, but from a world building perspective, these mines are pivotal. Seeing yet another egg mine with a sprawling interior just along the road serves as a reminder that, yeah, of course this world has an economy, and there is nothing to find in there because why would there be? Destitute egg farmers would have already plundered the place were there anything to find in the first place. Morrowind has a lot of pointless places to go, and growing up with that allowed me to appreciate the nuance of it. There is a greater meaning behind these winding tunnels to nowhere. Likewise, Fort Sungard is incredible because, although it is constantly lacking in functional gameplay, it's overflowing with character and the suggestion that Tamriel is a world that breathes. Why is Fort Sungard like this? Why so utterly divergent from the designs of other forts? Well, it's probably unfinished, and there were likely more extravagant plans for the fort that never came to fruition. I don't think some rogue developer wanted to design a location to suck. Skyrim is just big. Fort Sungard was overlooked, and, in my opinion, for the better.